They judged me for how I spoke, but my words turned their laughter into silence.
Imagine walking into a store, just wanting to buy something simple, and suddenly the manager laughs at you, simply because of the way you speak. That's exactly what happened to Alicia Brown. But what he didn't know was that Alicia had a secret that would leave everyone speechless. Stay with me as we unfold this story. And if you love powerful, true-to-life stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Alicia Brown was a 27-year-old young woman living in Atlanta, Georgia. She worked as a teaching assistant at a local community center where kids from different backgrounds came to learn and grow. People who knew Alicia described her as kind, patient, and always smiling. But behind that gentle smile was a story most people never guessed. Alicia was incredibly gifted with languages. From Spanish to French, from Mandarin to Arabic, and of course English, she had mastered 5 different languages over the years. But outside her circle of friends and students, Alicia often faced subtle judgments. She was a proud Black American woman, yet too many times, people assumed things about her just because of her appearance or the way she carried herself. She had grown used to the little comments, the raised eyebrows, the stares. But nothing could prepare her for what happened one rainy Thursday afternoon. That day, Alicia had just finished her shift at the community center. She stopped by a local clothing store to buy a new jacket. It was a small chain store, the kind where the staff usually recognized regular customers. As she walked in, she immediately felt the store manager's eyes on her. At first, she didn't think much of it, until she approached the counter. The store was quiet, only a few customers browsing around. Alicia picked out a jacket and walked up to the register with her usual warm smile. She greeted the manager politely, but instead of returning her kindness, he smirked. His next words would sting deeply and set off a chain of events that no one in that store would ever forget. The store manager's name was Greg. He was in his mid-40s, with a stiff posture and an expression that always seemed just a little too proud. As Alicia placed her jacket on the counter, she softly said, "Hi, I'd like to buy this one, please." Greg looked at her, then chuckled under his breath. Alicia tilted her head, unsure if she had misheard. "Excuse me?" she asked politely. Greg leaned forward and said in a mocking tone, "You mean, I would like to buy this one, please. You should try speaking proper English if you want to shop here." The words hit her like a slap. Alicia froze. Her English was perfectly fine, clear, respectful, and polite. Yet here she was, being ridiculed in front of strangers. 2 customers nearby turned their heads. One woman raised her eyebrows, uncomfortable with what she just witnessed. A man in the corner pretended not to notice, but his smirk gave away his silent agreement with Greg. Alicia felt heat rush to her face. She had faced judgment before, but this was blatant. This wasn't just about her words. This was about who she was, and the assumptions Greg had already made about her. She opened her mouth to respond, but Greg didn't give her the chance. Instead, he continued, "You know, people come in here every day, and I can always tell who's educated and who isn't. Some folks just don't belong in certain places." That sentence hung in the air like poison. Alicia clenched her hands, but she didn't let anger control her. Instead, she took a deep breath. She knew she had a choice: walk away silently and let him believe he was right, or stand her ground in a way that would leave him, and everyone else in the store, completely stunned. The tension was rising. Customers were watching closely now, sensing something bigger was about to unfold. And Alicia? She was about to turn Greg's mockery into his biggest embarrassment. Alicia stood still, jacket in hand, as Greg's smug expression grew wider. The store had grown unusually quiet. Every small sound echoed, from the soft hum of the ceiling fan to the faint shuffle of a shopper's shoes. Everyone was waiting to see how Alicia would respond. She spoke calmly, her voice steady. "My English is perfectly fine, sir. There was no mistake in what I said." Greg let out a laugh, not the friendly kind, but the dismissive kind that dripped with arrogance. Sure. If you say so. But you know, around here we expect people to sound educated, clear, professional, not sloppy." His eyes scanned her from head to toe, making it clear this wasn't just about grammar, it was about how he saw her. A woman in the aisle nearby frowned and muttered under her breath, "That's not right." Another customer pulled out his phone, as if sensing that this might turn into something worth recording. Alicia felt her heart pound, but she also felt something else, an inner strength rising. She wasn't going to let this man define her worth. She looked him straight in the eyes. "You want clear and professional?" she asked, her tone sharper now. Greg raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Yes, please. Show us what that sounds like." And that's when Alicia switched to French, fluent, smooth, and confident. She said, "Est-ce assez clair pour vous? Parce que je peux continuer toute la journée." "Is that clear enough for you?" "Because I can continue all day." The manager blinked, completely caught off guard. His smirk faltered for the first time. The woman in the aisle gasped and whispered, Did she just speak French?" But Alicia wasn't done. She moved seamlessly into Spanish, then into Mandarin. Each language rolled off her tongue like music, precise and graceful. The room was no longer silent. It was alive with murmurs, gasps, and wide eyes. Customers leaned in, stunned at what they were witnessing. Even the man with the phone stopped pretending. He openly started recording now. Greg, however, wasn't ready to back down. His pride was wounded, and he looked for a way to regain control. "Cute trick," he muttered, forcing a smirk back onto his face. "But speaking fancy words doesn't mean you belong here." The audience in the store could feel the clash building. Alicia had shocked everyone, but Greg wasn't finished, and neither was she. Alicia took a step closer to the counter. Her eyes locked on Greg. The entire store had shifted. What started as a casual purchase had turned into a silent showdown. Greg's voice grew louder, almost defensive now. "This isn't a language competition. You think spouting off a few phrases impresses anyone? People need to speak English here." "Proper English," Alicia tilted her head. Her calmness only made his anger more obvious. "And who gets to decide what proper sounds like, you?" she asked. The question struck deeper than he expected. For the first time, his smirk looked shaky. Customers whispered, some shaking their heads at Greg's stubbornness. The woman from earlier crossed her arms, glaring at him, but Greg wasn't ready to surrender his pride. "Look, lady, you can show off all you want, but at the end of the day, people like you—" He stopped mid-sentence. His own words betrayed him. The store froze again. "People like you." Everyone knew what he meant, even if he didn't finish the thought. A few gasps broke out among the customers. Alicia felt a lump rise in her throat, but instead of shrinking, she straightened her shoulders. "People like me? You mean educated, multilingual, and more professional than the man behind this counter?" The phone recording caught every word. Greg's jaw tightened. He looked around, realizing the room was no longer on his side. His authority had slipped through his fingers, and Alicia had turned his insult into a mirror, one that reflected his prejudice right back at him. But Alicia wasn't done yet. She had one more move, something that would silence not only Greg, but leave the entire store in awe. The tension reached its peak. Customers leaned in, whispering to each other. Some pulled out their phones to record, sensing that this was building toward something unforgettable. And then, Alicia opened her mouth to reveal the one language no one expected. The one that would change everything in that store. What language did Alicia speak next? And how would it completely flip the script on Greg? The air inside the store was heavy with silence. Every customer waiting to see Alicia's next move. Greg stood stiff, trying to mask the unease growing across his face. His arms were crossed, but his eyes darted nervously between Alicia and the recording phones pointed in his direction. Alicia took a slow, steady breath. Then she spoke, this time in Arabic, her voice smooth and confident. The flowing words carried a rhythm that instantly commanded respect. Customers who understood the language nodded in recognition, while others simply looked stunned at the beauty of it. When she finished her sentence, she translated for everyone to hear. Respect should never be limited to one language. One sound or one skin color. A hush fell over the room. Even the hum of the ceiling lights seemed quieter. Alicia's words struck through the walls Greg had built with his arrogance. Greg swallowed hard. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. His face flushed red, and the smirk that had seemed glued to his lips was completely gone. One of the customers clapped softly, then louder. Soon the entire store joined in. Some applauded, some nodded, others smiled at Alicia with admiration. What had begun as humiliation turned into triumph, and the audience knew exactly who had won. Greg, desperate to regain control, muttered, "This is ridiculous. This is a store, not a stage performance." But his words fell flat. The crowd wasn't buying it anymore. Alicia leaned closer, her tone sharp but controlled. "No, this is real life. And in real life, you don't get to belittle people for the way they speak. Every voice deserves respect. Even yours." Her words weren't just powerful, they were disarming. She didn't curse him. She didn't stoop to his level. She gave him the dignity he had tried to deny her. Greg opened his mouth, then shut it again. He grabbed the jacket, scanned it quickly, and slid it across the counter without saying another word. His silence was louder than any insult he could have thrown. Alicia picked up the jacket, but before leaving, she turned back to the crowd. Switching back to English, she said clearly, "For anyone here who has ever been mocked for their voice, their accent, or their skin, remember this. Your words carry power, no matter how you speak them." The crowd erupted once more, and Alicia walked out with her head held high. The phone recordings would later spread online, turning her into a quiet hero for people everywhere who had been judged unfairly. As for Greg, his arrogance had cost him. The company received complaints, and the video didn't take long to find its way to his supervisors. In the end, the man who mocked a woman for not sounding professional was forced to face the consequences of his own unprofessional behavior. But for Alicia, this wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. And that respect, she had earned, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been underestimated. When Alicia walked out of that store, she wasn't just carrying a jacket. She was carrying a victory. Not a victory of pride, but of dignity. She had shown that strength doesn't come from shouting the loudest, but from standing tall in the face of disrespect and choosing grace over hate. Her story is a reminder that words carry power, but so does silence, the kind of silence that exposes arrogance when it no longer has ground to stand on. Greg tried to mock her English, but Alicia reminded everyone that intelligence and respect aren't measured by how you sound. They're measured by how you treat others. Think about it. How many times have people been underestimated simply because of the way they speak, the color of their skin, or the background they come from? Too often, voices are dismissed before they're even heard. But Alicia's story flips that script. It tells us, never let someone else define your worth. Respect doesn't belong to one language one culture, or one group of people. It belongs to all of us. Whether you speak with an accent, whether you're fluent in one language or five, whether you grew up in Atlanta, Paris, Lagos, or Beijing, your voice matters. And no one has the right to take that away from you. If this story touched you, let it be more than just a story. Let it be a reminder. The next time you see someone mocked, dismissed, or silenced, speak up. Because silence in those moments doesn't protect peace, it protects prejudice. And together, we can change that. Alicia didn't just defend herself. She gave a voice to thousands who faced the same treatment. And that's why her story deserves to be remembered, shared, and celebrated. So if you felt her courage, if you believe in respect for all voices, I want you to do 3 simple things right now. Like this video, it helps this message reach more people. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful story. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that their voice has value. Because at the end of the day, Alicia's story is not just hers, it's ours. It's a reminder that dignity, respect, and humanity don't belong to one person, one language, or one group. They belong to all of us, and that's something worth fighting for.